guys, welcome back to another episode of Salty Talk. We are excited to have some guests with us today. But first, I have my awesome co-hosts with me and partners in local outreach community ministry. What's up, guys? Becky, Jerome, how you
Hey,
doing?
What's up? What's
good,
up?
good. How are you?
I'm
Great.
good. Guys, we're in the middle of a big initiative, and man, does it take a lot. Do you guys know what that's like?
Girl, you don't even know. I know. What do you know? Tell me what you know.
Oh, we're in the middle of like holiday wish lists, and we are just trying to chase people's generosity in the best way. And so
Mm,
sometimes you got to beg people, and sometimes you got to just scramble behind the scenes to have enough opportunity for everyone. Like strike while the iron's hot. Can I get an amen?
I
Crazy.
Amen.
love that. I love that phrase, chase people's generosity. I think every community minister knows exactly what that means.
Yeah. It seems like we're always like digging out of the same pool of donors and givers, and it all happens during November and December.
Yes,
That's when we're
indeed.
pulling on your heartstrings.
That's right.
That's right. So we're
That
ready
is
to run fast, right? All the time.
all the
Indeed.
time.
Okay, Jerome, we are excited to hear about your week. Did you have anything crazy happen this week you want to share with us?
Actually, I did. So even just recently, this week has been like mind blowing. So I just talked to this organization and I'll just, I'll keep it like, not so ministerial and long-winded, but so this organization exists. They put retail stores inside of needy schools and provide these parents and students with clothing and hygiene items and bikes and shoes and all the things. They can just come right to their school. They don't have to be embarrassed. And they just supply all these needs, and they're partnered with churches to be their delivery system. And it's amazing. So yeah, that was like the highlight of my week. Big
That
fat
is so
cherry on top of
cool.
my week right now. Yeah.
That's right. I feel like they're like, it's a mashup of two different kinds of worlds that we collide to help each other. And I love that.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
love it. Well, guys, this week on the episode, we are excited to have the founders of the Community Ministers Network, Kent and Merilee, with us. And just a little intro for them. Together, they've planned multiple local outreach summits. They've worked to create an amazing platform for community ministers like us. And we get to connect and share ideas. And so, will you guys help me welcome Kent and Merilee? We're excited to talk to you guys.
Hey, good to see you all.
So
The
good to be here
real
today.
heroes of community
Yes.
engagement.
Yes.
We love you guys.
We love you too.
Yeah, thank you, Kent and Merilee, for being here. So let's just jump right into it if we can, so we can be within our 17 minutes and 41 seconds.
That's
So
awesome.
I think we all want to know, and the world at large wants to know, what's your story? What inspired you to jump into this pool and create Community Minister Network?
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I was on the Financial Peace University team for years. And the most exciting thing that I got to do during that time was work with cities. Got to work with 3 major cities where we had a goal of having over 100 churches all do Financial Peace University at the same time with the same theming, etc. And it's just so cool to see churches collaborate together on things. And we always talk about how we're better together in small groups, but we're also better together in our cities. And that was just one thing that I got to do while I was part of the Financial Peace University team. And I loved it. I got addicted to helping churches collaborating with each other. Then there was this pandemic thing that came along and
Oh, that
kind of
little
pushed
thing?
reset on all of our worlds. And during that time, it kind of pushed reset for me too and changed some things. And then going along, our pastor here in the Nashville area started talking about a listening tour that he did with local officials. And that sparked something in my spirit that I was supposed to kind of get back on track with some of these things and figure out what to do with the things that I had learned and experienced.
Hmm.
So we started by hypothesizing a couple things, and we started talking to community ministers around the nation to test our hypothesis that community ministers were the drawstring that made those big collaborations possible. And started digging in, really didn't know much about that position other than I'd worked with a few of them. And that led us to do some extensive research that we'll talk about in a minute that kind of affirmed the hypothesis that we had. And that led to us doing some small scale testing, which included our first in-person event. You all said you would come, but we didn't know until we tried it. But you came and you had a great time, and we've done 3-4 events since then, and we've got more planned in the future. And it's just been a joy to kind of figure out what's next from that whole experience and to see it continue to be applied in an area that was kind of a hole in the church space that we feel like we're filling.
Oh, yeah. I remember that first summit, and that was awesome. But I remember telling my husband, I don't know what these people look like. I don't really know them. So could you just be close to your phone just in case this is like a hijack, like kidnapping situation? I got random text messages from other church leaders from other area codes. I'm like, are you sure who you are? And then we meet up. I'm like, okay, you're who you are. Okay, we're getting in this van together. Okay. And it all worked out great. And honestly, we left so blessed, but thank you for taking the step up and doing what you felt called to do. Here we are.
Here we are.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Merilee, something that Kent said, is he said that you guys did some extensive research. Girl, you have done some extensive research around community ministry. Can you kind of walk us through what that was about and what you learned? I know when I first kind of set my eyes upon it, it gave me life, and I felt so seen as a community minister. I thought, oh my goodness,
Ditto.
these are my people. So can you walk us through that a little bit?
Absolutely. I have been so blessed and privileged to talk to over 250 of you community ministers. And lots of those people are working in churches as outreach pastors, or some of them compassion directors, various names. But I got to talk to 250 people over all 50 states. And it was so fun because all of you community ministers have this wonderful heart for people and just a compassion to see God touch hearts in your community. And so that was infectious as I talked to you all. And one of the greatest things that we learned, and actually one of the most ironic things that we learned, is that community ministers really lack community. And community is necessary. Everybody has a need to know that somebody else out there understands them and thinks like they do and talks like they do. And we oftentimes think, okay, bankers, lawyers, doctors, senior pastors, worship leaders, even children's ministers, there's places for those people to go to talk to other people who do what they do. And we discovered that there really wasn't a good place for community ministers to go and talk to people who think like they do and do what they do. So we just wanted to provide that. And God, I think, put that on our hearts.
Yep. And to do it from a national, non-denominational basis. There's a few other small groups out there that are kind of pushing in this direction, but they're not really focused on just you as a group and the totality of what you do versus a niche of what you do. So that was good.
And I think something else that I learned, at least talking to each of you, is that even when you are in other states, we had people from Alaska, we had people from New York, people from Arizona, California, you all, Kentucky, all over the country. And the common themes were coming up, but you all face a lot of the same challenges. And even though it might look different how you address it in your community, it's helpful to talk to somebody else about how they address it in their community. And so we wanted to provide also a place for you all to share good ideas and also share what didn't go so well when you tried it. So that was really our goal as we set out and started the Community Minister Network.
Yeah, well, I am so grateful that God put that on your hearts and you didn't like wipe it away from your hearts, because it has been, I think that's my biggest takeaway is the community. And it's so interesting that we spend so much time building community on behalf of others, but for us, it's kind of like, oh, it's like a chef that makes this big meal and then he feeds everybody and everybody's all happy and full and just laughing with joy and fullness and yum. And then you ask the chef, like, well, did you eat? And they're like, oh, well, no, actually I didn't until
Yeah, I
Community
had my
Ministers
chef
Network
boyardee,
Summit.
right?
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much.
Yes, thank you so much for what you do.
I remember talking to you guys for the first time in the interview, and I was like, I've been waiting for someone to do this. Like, I've always wanted to be a part of it, but nobody's done it, and I don't really have the time, but someone's got to do it. And so I'm like, whatever you need, I'll answer all the questions if it's even helpful. So, yes, sometimes it just takes someone leading the charge, putting the flag in the ground, and saying, this is what we're doing. And we're so grateful. Now,
And you know, you all can talk.
well,
I was just
What?
thinking that.
a chatty
Shocking.
bunch,
Who would have known?
watch out. Okay, well, since you've interviewed so many people and you kind of have this perspective of such an array of experience, what advice would you give someone just starting in community ministry based off of what you heard?
I think I would start by saying volunteer where you are. If you're in a church, volunteer for your church, volunteer in any community outreach organization, and get out there and learn what's going on in your city. You want to find out who the people are, the key players that are in your community working already on the ground. And I think that the goal that I heard a lot of community ministers say is that they don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? So if you find out who's got food banks and who's got homeless shelters, and try and find out who's dealing with foster care issues and all of the things that you deal with, then you can meet those people, you can connect with them, and try and bring your church along into what they're doing.
Yep. So we have a vision to have a community minister in every church. And for most churches, that's going to look like a part-time volunteer, which is totally cool. But over the last couple of years, we've been building foundational pieces to help even those part-time volunteers be able to get some help so that they can do more and be wise about how they do it. And so they can go to their pastor and say, hey, this just isn't my idea. I've run it past some of my peers. And that's why our team has created an essentials course to train
So
people
good.
in all the things that the group has known. And that wasn't just one person putting that together. That was a group of community ministers putting together their wisdom and experience. And then we also do in-person events, because our research has told us you want to meet your peers in person.
Yeah.
It's part of who you are. That's part of how you do work. So you want to meet your peers. You want to get to know your peers. And then we also do monthly group Zooms where you can meet your peers, spend time with your peers, ask questions, and get some content all at the same time. So we've put a few things in place, and we're going to keep growing on those basics as time goes on. But some of the very basic, simple things that we do regularly are the most valuable and powerful things that we do. And it's not complicated, but we just are going to be faithful with it.
The more that I'm in this network, the more value I see in it. And the more that I've gotten to know Kent and Merilee, Kent will say, I've got an idea. What do you think about this? And I'm like, that is something I never knew I always needed. Like, what in the world? So the more that I'm in this network and the more that I get to meet other community ministers, other churches, it's just so valuable. And it really is information that you never knew that you always needed.
And we love seeing you guys interact. It's just how God is bringing together people that who would never have met otherwise, and just what you're able to come up with together. So cool.
Yeah, I love the rich conversations that happen at all different levels, whether it's us praying for each other in those monthly Zoom chats or it's the in-person summits where we're really diving into like, how do we get buy-in from other departments at our church? Or how do we mobilize volunteers? How do we retain volunteers? How do we create a partner kind of approval structure, or just all these different things that a lot of times we don't have bandwidth or nobody else around us is thinking about them. So how are we going to bounce these ideas off of anybody? And then here in this space on this show, I love that we're interested in bringing in other voices that we work with to inform what we do, right? Because if we're working in a silo and in a vacuum, we're never going to get better. We're going to keep thinking our own ideas are the best. But when we can partner with other sectors of our community, I think it makes this conversation, the conversations that we have around tables in person, just so much richer, knowing we're informed by others.
Yeah, I definitely concur with all of that. So, Merilee, tell me about a salty moment that you had in your experience in this point up in your journey in working with the network. So, and for the audience, if you missed it, salty, when we say salty moment, it is coming from the scripture that we are the light and the salt of the earth, right? And so salt only works when you touch it, when you're in close proximity. It's a rub, right? So there's some friction sometimes. But ultimately, salt is supposed to enhance the flavor. It's supposed to preserve, and yeah, so it does all those great things, but it's not always an easy process. So tell us, Merilee, about a salty moment.
You know, that's an interesting question, because I think that our salty moments are actually your salty moments, don't you think?
Deep.
We go to the community minister summits and we get to see you guys who have the boots on the ground where we don't. We're not community ministers. And so we get to hear your stories of how this person was served in the community and they showed up in church and they got baptized and now they're serving in our team. And all those kinds of stories just energize us. But I think that one of the biggest eye openers for me when we first started was the first summit we had in Kansas City. On the last day of the summit, one of the community ministers we were talking with was somebody we had talked to previous to the summit, and we felt really comfortable that this person he knew what was going on in the space, right? And he had been in it for over 20 years. And we thought, you know, he's probably not going to come away with a whole lot from this summit, but he will certainly help impart his wisdom to everyone else. And what was really touching was when he came to us at the end and he had this smile on his face and just this almost look of relief. And he said, I finally found my tribe. And it was like,
Yeah.
yes, that's what
awesome.
we want to see. So here, 20 plus years, and he didn't have his people, and he was so thrilled and energized by the fact that now he did. So that was a
Well, you
great
guys are
moment.
tribe builders. I feel
Yes,
like you guys are helping us find the way.
yes.
New show title alert: Tribe Builders.
Ooh,
That's the spinoff of this show.
a
There you go.
spinoff. Yeah, we'll go ahead and run that through a few filters before we
That's right.
publicize that. But
Stay tuned. Stay tuned.
yeah, right. Well, I know the network's been so valuable to us, and it's just so cool to be a part of something at ground zero and really help it to get momentum and just to see how far it's come in a year and a half. I mean, or more. My kid's almost a year and a half, and I was like 3 months pregnant when I went to the first one. So how crazy just the way that God has brought us and led us to where we're at today. Can you share a favorite quote or scripture that reflects the essence of the intentional community engagement and like the mission of the Community Minister Network?
Yeah, there was one, I'm going to paraphrase, but during one of Merilee's interviews, I happened to just overhear what one of the community ministers said. And again, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically said that the battle for the soul of our nation will be determined by how well we do local missions. And I really believe that. And that's part of why we pour so much energy into this, is because we really think there's a lot on the line, and community ministers are key to making that happen. That doesn't make us more important than senior pastors or other people, but we have a very important role to play, and we want to play it well, and we want to help shape this aspect of the church space in a way that makes it more effective to see more people discipled and become followers of Jesus.
Yeah, and I also think of the verse that talks about the beautiful feet are those that take the gospel. And I know that all you community ministers and the people who serve under you are carrying the gospel in whatever way, shape, or form that they're serving. And that's so important.
So, to our listeners, that is all the time we have for today. But if you have questions, we want to hear from you. We are listening. So, if you wouldn't mind just to go to communityminister.network. We want to hear from you. We want to hear the topics that you want to hear on Salty Talk. We want to discuss the things you want to hear. We want to get the salt to you. We want to get the salt on you. We want to get the salt about you. So, we want you to have the salt. We want to get it to you. So look us up. We are listening. We are on Facebook, Insta, X, TikTok, all the things. We are just everywhere, and we are coming at you. So, but we want to hear from you, because this Salty Talk is about you and it is for you. So we love you. Until next time, stay salty.